Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. A new health care reform battle is shaping up on Capitol Hill now that a government agency has weighed in on the cost. Senate Republicans and Democrats are ready for a fight, and changes to a bill already approved by the House are almost certain. Gary Lane is on this story.
The new CBO estimate says 23 million Americans would be left uninsured, although that number includes people who simply wouldn't buy insurance because they wouldn't be forced to the way they were under Obamacare. Democrats continued their attack on the Republican plans. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer called the bill, already approved by the House, a nightmare.
The report makes clear Trump care would be a cancer on the American health care system.
When House Republicans passed health care reform last month, the GOP and President Trump said they had to act because Obamacare is failing.
This is a repeal and a replace of Obamacare.
Under Obamacare, government exchanges in many states are providing people with few options. Some are left with only one insurance provider. One latest example, after incurring Obamacare losses of $100 million, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas City will pull out of multiple counties in Kansas and Missouri next year. The Congressional Budget Office says the House reform bill would actually save the government money by reducing the federal deficit by $119 billion over the next 10 years. While also cutting taxes by nearly $1 trillion and reducing spending by more than $1 trillion. The CBO also says states would be allowed to waive pre-existing condition requirements. Some Senate Republicans say they'll need to change that.
We've got to deal with pre-existing conditions in a way that we know will actually work for people.
While some people would see their costs rise, Republicans say healthy people will actually see their premiums reduced because they won't be forced to accept plans that cover services they don't need. Republicans and critics point out the CBO has often been wrong in its forecasts, and the CBO itself warns that its projections are uncertain. While many Republicans may take issue with the CBO estimates, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is pleased the report is finally done.
The updated report will allow the Senate procedurally to move forward.
McConnell doubts he has the 50 votes right now he needs to repeal Obamacare. The Senate is expected to redo the House bill and come up with its own measure in the days ahead. Gary Lane, CBN News.
President Trump continues his first overseas trip. Today he is in Belgium meeting with leaders of the European Union and our NATO allies. President Trump was critical of both organizations during his run for the office. He praised Britain's vote to pull out of the EU and speculated about pulling out of NATO if members don't start paying their fair share. Since becoming president, he has softened his tone but still expects NATO members to increase their contribution. The U.S. also expects NATO to join the 68-nation coalition fighting ISIS. It sounds like something out of a political thriller. The American Center for Law and Justice says a shadow government is at work in the federal bureaucracy, seeking to weaken the president. The ACLJ's Jordan Seculo told CBN News the intelligence leaks that have plagued the administration from day one are coming from career employees who don't agree with the president's politics.
What we are talking about here is the deep state, government bureaucracies and agencies and the people within who are not directly appointed by the President of the United States. They're not political appointees. They are careerists. And they were very in line with the Obama administration. They caused some trouble for the Bush administration, but not nearly. We've not nearly seen them this active before in an attempt to undermine an administration, what they're trying to do with the Trump administration.
Seculo says the leaks not only undermine the president, they pose a danger to national security. The ACLJ is filing lawsuits in federal court to learn more about that leaked information. British police have arrested 2 more people as they continue their search for even more who are behind the concert bombing that left 22 dead. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Theresa May says the U.S. is compromising their investigation. She accuses U.S. officials of leaking important information. British officials are particularly angry about photos published in the New York Times that detail evidence about the bomb used in the Manchester attack. Britain and the U.S. commonly share intelligence to the highest levels. However, British officials suggest there has been a severe breach of trust. Human trafficking is one of the largest and fastest growing crimes in the world. In Washington, lawmakers are addressing the issue head on, voting on 13 pieces of legislation this week aimed at bringing an end to modern-day slavery. And this is happening as Congress is also dealing with the president's budget plan. Abigail Robertson has more now on this story.
It's estimated that more than 20 million people worldwide are victims of human trafficking, with cases reported in every state in the U.S.
So many times you find it around the world, but it's right here in America. They have more than 7,000 cases just last year reported.
This week, Congress focused in on this issue, passing a number of bills aimed at protecting victims and increasing punishments for convicted offenders. A top priority, dealing with legal loopholes that predators take advantage of to avoid being convicted. Congresswoman Martha Roby's Global Child Protection Act would change current laws to close those loopholes.
Under the current definitions, it does deal with people who travel abroad to have sex with children, but the definitions don't include people who travel abroad to force children to do sexual acts on them. And so it's these types of, again, unintentional loopholes in the criminal code where Congress can change the law.
And Congressman Mike Johnson is also offering a measure that would prevent criminals from getting away on a technicality. Johnson's bill deals with a case in 2015 where a man who recorded a sexual assault on a child was able to escape a federal conviction.
There's a provision where the courts have said that if a predator has sexual activity with a minor and they record any of those images on their phone, their smartphone, their other devices, and they didn't intend to record them, then somehow they would be able to evade prosecution. We think that's outrageous. It's a violation of Congress's obvious intent to protect the most defenseless among us.
And Congress has another major item on its plate with the release of President Trump's budget plan of over $4 trillion.
The budget's a framework, and what's so refreshing here is how honest he is in the process, that he balances a budget in 10 years. We have not had that in the last administration.
The White House budget reduces Washington's spending plans for future years, and Democrats quickly attacked the proposal, with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer calling it a nightmare that hurts the middle class and relies on fantasy numbers.
When I look at what he's doing else in the budget, it's kind of what he's looking at welfare reform, actually putting people back to work, giving them a sense of accomplishment at the same time. Those are tough things to do, and sometimes they get politically attacked for it, but in the end, you create and help individuals to buy homes, send their kids to college.
And while not all Republicans gave it a ringing endorsement, many are encouraged to see the Trump administration taking steps to try to limit spending, eventually balance the budget, and help get the economy growing strongly. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says the president's budget is just a recommendation, and now it's up to Congress to figure out what to do with it. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
A massive landslide is shutting down a California highway for months. It happened along California's Big Sur coastline due to wet weather over the winter season. The collapse marks the third major closure in Big Sur and is one of the biggest in decades. The cost of the damage adds up to about $1 billion, and about 1.5 million tons of material was dumped onto the road and the shoreline. Reports say it will be months before it reopens again. First Lady Melania Trump visited the Vatican's pediatric hospital Wednesday, spending time with both the children and their parents. Often considered to be gracefully stoic, the First Lady smiled continually through her visit, painting with children and taking selfies. In the hospital's guest book, she wrote, "Great visiting you. Stay strong and positive. Much love, Melania Trump." A faith-based flash mob will go to Budapest again this year to advocate for the traditional family unit. It is called the Up to Faith Flash Mob, and it is taking place at the World Congress of Families event. The family conference is meant to draw attention to the importance and value of families. In 2011, more than 40 countries joined in. The organizers of the flash mob are encouraging people to send in their own videos of dancing and celebrating. For more information, you can visit uptofaith.com. The event will continue through May 28th. Up next, here on CBN NewsWatch, it is a tough battle for people fighting cancer, but one ministry is finding a new way to encourage, connect, and help people to find the healing needed. Just a small amount of alcohol raises breast cancer risk. That is according to a new study. Only 10 grams of alcohol a day increase breast cancer risk by 5% in younger premenopausal and 9% in older postmenopausal women. Standard drinks contain about 14 grams of alcohol. The more alcohol consumption, the greater the risk. Another risk factor is being overweight as an adult. On the flip side, exercise really reduces the risk of breast cancer. Any exercise, like walking, is better than none at all. But the more vigorous the exercise, the more you reduce the risk. We're talking aerobic exercise like running, and the more you do, the better. It is a word no one wants to hear, cancer, yet statistics show half of all men and a third of all women will get some form of the disease. In many cases, people simply suffer in silence as they try to cope with the illness. Now, as Lori Johnson shows us, an organization is teaching churches how to help cancer patients.
Hello, Sheila. Hello. Hi, how are you, dear?
Doing well.
Good to see you.
After years of counseling cancer patients, Reverend Percy McCrae knows they bear a burden unlike people fighting other illnesses.
Psychologically and emotionally, cancer patients, particularly people of faith, are struggling with their faith at that point. What did I do wrong? Is there something that I did that caused God to punish me?
Thanks to his training, Reverend McCrae knows the importance of encouragement. Then one conversation helped him realize others need to learn these skills too.
The patient shared with me that they were impacted more by the pastoral care support that they received at the bedside of our hospital than they did at their local church.
Typically, churches are very effective when it comes to helping people with all kinds of problems like financial or marital, but often fall short when it comes to dealing with health care issues.
Especially cancer.
And therefore, they really struggle with what do I say, when do I say it, how do I say it? And so what happens, one of the number one dynamics that takes place with the cancer patient and their caregiver is that they begin to feel a sense of isolation and that people begin to avoid them altogether.
To bridge this gap, Reverend McCrae and his associates at the Cancer Treatment Centers of America approached churches about teaching their members how to minister to their brothers and sisters with cancer. It's called Our Journey of Hope.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America offers free training for 2 people from a church who use what they learn here to raise up cancer ministries in their home congregations.
Participants learn the basics of the disease and treatments in order to focus on what it's like for the patient. An added incentive for churches, the training, food, lodging, even the course materials are all free.
We did not want to limit the ability to have the average church receive this training because of lack of resources.
LaWanda Long attended the seminar years ago and now passes on what she learned to volunteers at Atlanta's Enon Baptist Church.
When we announced we were going to start this ministry, I want to say we started out with 12 to 15 folk, and all of them had a personal relationship with cancer. Either they were a cancer survivor or a caregiver of a cancer patient.
She teaches volunteers 1 night a week for 8 weeks to prepare them to meet with cancer patients in their church.
Sometimes people don't know what to say for those who's battling with cancer. Sometimes they may say, oh, I have a loved one who had cancer. They had that same symptom and they died. Wrong thing to say. I think the main thing we're trying to train people is to have empathy, to listen, to not try to fix it, but just to be there, to realize that God is everywhere and God will have a witness in every situation.
So far, the ministry's a success.
A lot of times people don't understand the impact cancer does to a family and to a person. It's more than just a physical detriment. It attacks their spirit and attacks their soul.
Lisa McDermott remembers suffering through 5 months of chemotherapy for breast cancer.
With me, it was strictly fatigue. I just could not get off the couch, just down.
She asked the cancer ministry for help with daily needs.
It makes a real difference when you're just too sick to do anything. You don't feel well, you don't want to do the dishes, you don't want to get up, you don't want, you've got groceries to get, you don't want to go drive anywhere, so it's a great ministry.
Lisa dealt with one main point person who recruited others to pitch in.
Everything makes a difference. People, phone calls, cards, letters, just to know that people are thinking about me, praying for me, caring about me.
The cancer ministry made such an impression that Lisa wanted to get the training.
We put packages together for everyone that we find out about, that's referred to us, care packages for them all. I got one too. It was very, very nice. All kinds of things in the little care package, books and journals and socks to keep warm and just hats, all kinds of things, just beautiful things, jewelry.
As Nefertiti Dixon's mother fought ovarian and colon cancer, the ministry stepped in.
Oh goodness, words can't explain. They were awesome. Just when you think you're by yourself, you're not.
Although her mom lost her fight, the cancer ministry made those final days easier.
Helping just around the house, food, things that my mom needs. She would need errands ran, medicine. Sometimes she just wanted to have someone to sit with her and talk, just companionship.
They also helped Nefertiti, who, as a working mom with 2 children, became overwhelmed with the pressure of caring for her sick mother. So while cancer will likely continue to strike far too many, churches now can choose to help those dealing with the disease. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Israeli paratroopers helped to unite Jerusalem, fulfilling a 2,000-year-old dream. One story of faith and courage is next. The war only lasted 6 days, but forever changed Israel and the Middle East. Scott Ross talked to an author and expert about the 1967 battle.
The Temple Mount is in our hands. The famous words of Commander Motor, whose men helped reunite Jerusalem under Jewish sovereignty, fulfilling a 2,000-year-old dream.
This book is really a story of an Israeli band of brothers, young Israeli men who gave the Jewish people their greatest victory, I would say, in history, probably since the Exodus from Egypt. You know, suddenly we're born again as a people.
I spoke with American-born Israeli Yossi Klein Halevi about his book, Like Dreamers, the story of the Israeli paratroopers who reunited Jerusalem and divided a nation. Psalm 126, when God brings about the return to Zion, we were like dreamers. Then our mouths will be filled with laughter, our tongues with joyous song. And that's where you got the title. Halevi took me to the Mount of Olives overlooking the old city where Motor commanded his troops.
The paratroopers came to this spot on the morning of June 7th, 1967. Motor, a very famous photograph, is looking out onto the Temple Mount and making the final preparations in his mind for the descent and the conquest of the old city. So he says, paratroopers of Brigade 55. And he tells them that Jews waited thousands of years for this moment. You are the ones who are privileged to restore Jerusalem to the Jewish people.
We retraced their steps to Lion's Gate of the old city.
This is the gate that the paratroopers, the Israeli soldiers, entered on June 7th, 1967. And then when they reached the Temple Mount, the famous words of Motor, the commander of the paratroopers, were, "The Temple Mount is in our hands." And they find the wall, and there are these incredibly emotional scenes of battle-hardened paratroopers, many of them secular, most of them secular, weeping at the wall.
So the prayer and the hope of many generations next year in Jerusalem came to pass.
Suddenly it becomes this year in Jerusalem.
Halevi personalizes the history of Israel since then through the eyes of 6 such dreamers.
I felt that what was missing in the way people relate to the story of Israel was that personal connection. Right. And I always wondered, you know, what happened to the guys who liberated the Western Wall in 1967? I grew up with that image as symbolizing the like dreamers story of Israel.
These paratroopers, do they really reflect and microcosm the story of this country?
The range that you have in this book are deeply religious people, West Bank settlers, secular Israelis, Tel Aviv residents, kibbutzniks, left-wingers. And it was very important for me to tell the story of the whole people of Israel. Because the way that I understand the Jewish people is that we're a family.
It took Halevi 12 of his 32 years in Israel to write the book.
One of my characters, Arik Achmon, starts off as a boy living on one of these radical socialist kibbutzim. He fights the trade unions, and he creates the first privatized company in the state of Israel and opens the way to the high-tech free economy that we have today.
One became known as Israel's Bob Dylan, and another started the settlement movement in Judea and Samaria. Halevi says his book tries to show the struggle within the Israeli soul over making peace with the Palestinians and dividing Jerusalem.
In my neighborhood, I've got Jewish neighbors, I've got Arab neighbors, in the same neighborhood, in the same building. Now, how do you separate that? How do you divide a city without, God forbid, destroying it? I don't see how Jerusalem can be shared between two political entities that are emerging out of a 100-year war.
And for people from my worldview and my Christian view, we take very seriously the psalmist when he says, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May they prosper who love you.
Yes.
As you sit here and as we look at this, how do you pray for this city?
I pray that I personally should be worthy of living here, of holding this story at this moment. I pray that the people of Israel will be worthy of this story. I pray for our strength. I pray for our generosity of spirit. I pray that we be protected from hatred, that our hearts be open to love all the people of this land and all those who turn toward the city with hope. And I pray for all of us, and that's my prayer.
Every day is a great day to be grateful. Today's prayer: Father, thank you for being a miracle in my life, but more importantly, thank you for allowing me to be a miracle in the lives of others. Make time to be kind to others today. With that word, that is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about always at cbnnews.com. We'd love to hear from you. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. God bless.